Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. The Wolf She Never Knew. Episode 3. Chapter 18. Ava POV. I am beyond annoyed with shopping. I hate it, it sucks. I looked at my reflection in the mirror and sighed. My stomach growled as I turned and opened the fitting room door to show the outfit off and hoped for approval. I was ready to leave and get lunch. By the look on Amber's face I knew she instantly approved. She nodded her head. Girl. This island. Fire. She walked circles around me, inspecting me from head to toe. I guess I look okay. I shrugged. Okay? Girl, you look amazing. She complimented me again as my stomach growled in protest. Okay, go change and we can go eat. We need to start looking for your dress, and then party planner has a meeting at 4. I walked back into the fitting room, changed my clothes, and went and paid for the items. Except the cashier wouldn't accept Everest card. She would slide it and say it was declined. Sorry? Let me call someone really quick, stay here. It may be our system. She walked off with his card before I could say anything. That is weird. Amber commented. I nodded in agreement. It was weird, and why did she take the card? I didn't like this feeling, but I didn't want to get into trouble by going into her back office. Stay here, Amber. I don't like that she took Everest's credit card. I'm going to get it back. I smiled. Oh. Acting like the future queen already. Don't take her shit. She laughed. I don't know where this confidence came from or this bravery, but I hopped the counter and walked into the back of the establishment. When I did, the girl was on the phone before she screamed a blood-piercing sound for no reason. Help! Hurry! She's going to kill me! She yelled. What? No. I just want the credit card back. Give it to me, now. I put my hand out and glared. No. It's not yours. She screamed at me, you thief. Well, she was right, it didn't have my name but my mate's name. I know, but he's my mate. Give me his card, please. No. You're not wearing a mark. She took off deeper into the room and headed for the back door. I followed her, trying to get the card back. Why didn't she believe me? I just didn't understand. Everest was here 3 days ago with me. She helped us and now she doesn't understand or believe me. I left my phone out the front with Amber, but this woman was just infuriating. I watched her run out the back door, and when I followed I saw a man standing with her, a smile on his face. That is her. She is trying to kill me. Help, please. The man, who was well above 6 feet with broad shoulders, only watched me, and not saying a word he turned to the girl. This is Prince Everest's mate. She is not trying to kill you, you silly girl. She looked at me and nodded. I am sorry. I nodded my head and went to speak when the alarm went off through the city. An explosion then was heard, and I turned my head in the direction of the noise. I saw a smoke cloud in the direction of the castle and gasped. I heard a gasp and the sound of a thud. When I turned to look, the girl's neck was sliced open and she laid lifeless on the ground. Then everything was black. Dexter POV. Everything was going according to my plan. An update was sent to my phone by all of my reliable sources. The king was now dead. The alarm was cut off by the explosion of their communications tower. I still paced back and forth. Sarah was knocked out somewhere in the castle, and I am sure Everest was hunting for his father's killer by now. Avalynn was on her way to me. The poor store clerk was a casualty that was necessary. She almost ruined the kidnapping and saw my right hand's face. She had to go, unfortunately for her. He and another had Avalynn and were traveling in an unmarked SUV. I paced back and forth, anxious and excited to see her. I hoped that they had remembered to give her the medicine that the witch gave me. It would dissolve on her tongue so she doesn't choke. The medicine would make her feel a pull to me almost as if we were mates, and suppress her leakin for a few days. I smiled and knew I would have my hands full, but in the end it would be worth it. Everything was leading to this, to us. My witch departed early this morning, on the specific path that we would take. She laid out a masking concoction to hide Avalynn's scent until we were miles outside the territory and no longer traceable. Even though Avalynn is unmarked, I figured Everest would still know when something happened. It would feel as if something wasn't right. But I hoped that the feeling he would assume was his father's death. Her friend, on the other hand, that was with her, wore the mark of her mate, and I knew he would know when we knocked her out that something was seriously wrong. We would have to get out of here as quickly as possible. I continued to pace as I waited for their arrival. Everest POV: I was walking down the hall and running late for a meeting when a group of our warriors were running towards me. I knew that something was wrong, terribly wrong. I tried to link my father and it was silent. I felt this strange feeling creeping over my skin. It mimicked chills, but there was no bumps on my arms. I tried to link him again as the men reached me, but the link was gone. My father was dead, I just knew it. What has happened? Before I could finish the sentence, a siren sounded, cutting through the air like the cold wind on a winter's day. It was the distress signal, and then it cut off abruptly as an explosion shook the floor under my feet. The walls rattled and the photos and pictures hanging shook, some falling and breaking as they crashed onto the floor. My men and I looked at each other with panicked expressions for a moment. Something was wrong, very wrong. Your father. He was murdered. We found Sarah unconscious in the hallway, bleeding from her head. Finally Finn spoke, breaking the silence. My father was attacked and died. Sarah was attacked. Is Sarah okay? I had someone take her to the hospital. It looks as if she was struck in the back of the head and the blow knocked her unconscious. She should make it. Finn spoke again. My mate. Can anyone confirm if she's okay? I asked the group of men. Suddenly shouting was heard by Jameson. Everest! Everest! Something is wrong. Jameson was running full speed and shaking uncontrollably, undoubtedly fighting control with his leakin. What is it? I asked him, but I knew it wasn't good. I can't feel her. I felt like my head was dizzy, and now she's not responding to my link. She's alive, I know it, but she's hurt, I can feel it. Dear Goddess! I looked around and felt my stomach flip. Everest! Jameson trailed off. What? I looked back at him. Everest, Amber was with Avalynn. He looked at me and I could feel his worry and panic. I felt nothing but rage. My leakin beast was pushing to get out. I need to find her. I should have put a tighter security detail on her. Without saying a word, all of us were rushing down the hallway. We made it to the office, and when I walked in, my father's body was still laying on the floor. His head was completely ripped from his body and I fell to my knees. I don't know how long I was down there or how long I had been screaming, but my men were there for me, calling my name, bringing me back to focus. Shut it down. All passageways. Find me the bastard responsible for this. We need to find Amber. We must find Avalynn. Find my mother and make sure she is okay and bring her here. She needs to say her goodbyes before we move my father's body. No one stops, no one sleeps until we make sure Amber and Avalynn are both okay. Send someone to the hospital to be with Sarah and notify me immediately when she wakes up. Do you understand? Immediately. Yes, Your Grace. They all said together and split. Jameson stayed at my side and we walked out of the office. Do you know where they were shopping today? I asked him and he nodded. Go. Start with whatever store and keep moving until you find her. I will link you as soon as I can. I need to sit with my mother first and have my father removed. He nodded and was gone. I heard my mother's sobs before I saw her. My heart was breaking by each ragged breath she took. I knew she already knew of his death because the mate bond was severed. It's like a piece of our soul dies when our mate dies, or so I've heard. If you aren't strong enough, it could kill your mate too. I was worried for my mother. Would I lose her too? My mother now stood in front of me, leaning against my body as she cried for my dead father. We walked into the office and she fell to her knees by his side. She cried over his body and looked up at me with tear-stained cheeks and bloodshot eyes. Everest, you find the monster who did this and give me their head. Her jaws were clenched as she stood. I will handle this. I heard your mate is missing and Amber is missing. Go find them. I am sure this is all related. Go now. Her voice was strong and I kissed her cheek and went to find my mate. I linked Jameson. Any luck finding Amber? No. I have tried linking her to no avail. I'm at the first store and they hadn't made it here yet. Even through the link you could hear his panic and worry. What other stores did they go to? I questioned. The ones by Riverside and Creekmore. He told me. I'll meet you there. I cut the link and made my way there. When I arrived, I met Jameson outside to a shop that looked like something Amber would drag Avalynn into. It appeared to be an upscale boutique. When we walked it, we noticed that not only was it empty, but there appeared to be a struggle that took place. There were racks knocked over and clothes strewn all over the place. I found one of my guards with a bullet to the head and fear crept back into my body. Amber. Amber. Baby, are you here? Please answer. Amber. Jameson called out to his mate. We followed the path of destruction and found her cell phone broken into 1,000 pieces. I linked for help to arrive at our location and they should be here shortly. We soon found her unconscious with a pool of blood around her head and a few stab wounds to her torso. Jameson scooped her up in his arms and a tear streamed down his face as he spoke to her. She was breathing and her wounds looked like they were already beginning the healing process, which was a very good sign. I inhaled and could still faintly smell my mate's scent. I followed it to the counter and walked around to the small door and pushed through it. There I stepped over another one of my dead bodyguards who had the same fate as the other. My blood was boiling as I followed her scent to the back door. When I stood there, that's when I saw a lifeless body of a girl laying in the middle of back lot. Her neck had been sliced. Poor girl never stood a chance. I walked down the steps looking around. Sitting just a few feet away from her was a card. I kneeled down and picked it up. I turned it over and my breath caught in my throat. Anger and panic consumed me when I saw that it was my credit card I had given to Avalynn for shopping. She was here. She is gone. I looked around and noticed black tire marks left behind from where they took off too fast. My leakin came to the surface and I let out a sickening howl, running in the direction and following her faint scent. I ran and ran until suddenly there was no trace of her scent. I threw my claws through a tree and it came crashing down next to me, barely missing me. I felt someone trying to push through my link. As much as I didn't want to be bothered, I let it through. What? I growled. Sarah is awake and Amber is awake. It was Jameson and I could feel his relief. Good. I'll be there shortly, I responded. Avalynn. I heard right as I closed off my link. I needed the silence to think. This was not looking good. So many people panicking and trying to push through. I can't do this. I felt myself drift back as my leakin pushed through further in a fit of rage. I watched as he slashed and tore through the forest and killed any animal in his path. His thirst for blood not satisfied. I let him as I wept for my mate in the back of our minds. Neither of us would be satisfied until the cause of our pain was dying by our hands. When I finally pushed back through, my leakin felt broken and lost without his mate. I felt the same. My other half was gone, vanished. I cleaned off in a stream and washed the blood away from my body. My clothes were torn, but it was to be expected. I did just run through the forest in my leakin form after all. When I finally reached the hospital, I was met by a crowd of people. I pushed through and held my hand up, my people making room for me to pass. My mother, surprisingly, was already there waiting on me. When our eyes met, I could see the question hiding behind her eyes. I only shook my head no, and I heard a sad sigh come from her. Very well. Let's get this started. We need to find her. She motioned for me. We walked through the hallway together until we reached Sarah's room. 2 guards standing post outside her room. I nodded at them and walked past Sarah, sat up in the bed, and her eyes seemed to light up at the sight of me. Everest. You're here. She said breathlessly. I am. How are you feeling? I questioned. I had a slight headache. But it's better now. I'm sure it's my leakin healing, she smiled at me. Do you remember anything? I looked at her. She sat for a minute and I was watching her as she played with the sheets on her bed. Almost as if she didn't know how to answer. Yes, I do. She began. Well, kind of, I guess. Not much, really. She looked away and out to the window of her room. I frowned. Tell me what you do remember. Well, I was looking for your father and I remember passing someone briefly and their scent wasn't leakin. I realized I have never seen him before and wanted a better look before I could turn to question him. I guess I was struck. Why were you looking for my father? I moved to sit in the chair in the corner of the room. To give him my apologies over how I was behaving the last few days. I haven't been fair to you or your mate. I guess I just missed you and was jealous that another woman was now with my man. She looked down at her hands and sighed. I stood and walked over to her. I am sure he would have appreciated your apologies. I know I do, but I was never yours. I looked down to her and saw her hands ball into a fist. I struck a nerve. Do you know what he looked like? Do you remember? She slowly nodded her head and began describing the man she last saw. He was tall, but not as tall as you. He had a muscular build with a sun-kissed look to his skin. Not super tan but not ghostly white, I guess? He had brown hair and deep brown eyes. He had a strong jawline with a sharp nose. Oh, and he smelled like a forest. I raised my brows shocked at her response and nodded before leaving the room. When I walked outside her room I shut her door. I linked the men standing there. She doesn't leave and no one goes in unless it's medical staff, myself, my mother, or Jameson. Understand? Mother, will you please stay with her while we are gone? Let the doctors know that they must keep her here and not release her. She is acting strange. Of course, dear. I thought it was odd she knew so much but hardly saw anything. My mother responded. The guards both nodded to me. As I was on my way to speak with Jameson, I was thinking how something just didn't feel right or sit with me correctly. For someone who only had a split second to see her attacker and not remember much, she sure took in his physical features quickly. My mother noticed it too, and I am glad I wasn't the only one who caught it. It was odd, and my Leekan could sense there was something more that she wasn't telling and keeping from everyone. One thing that was puzzling me was why put herself in harm's way? She could have died by that blow to the head. As I walked up to Amber's hospital room, I could hear their hushed voices and Jameson attempting to soothe his mate. Amber, sweetheart, you tried your best. You were taken by surprise and almost died. I am sure that Everest does not blame you. You seen their face and we have already got their descriptions down. I lightly knocked on the door and entered when told it was okay. When I walked in, Amber began crying and immediately apologizing to me between sobs. Oh, Everest! I tried so hard to follow her when I heard her talking to someone outside. A male voice, and when I sniffed the air I couldn't catch a scent. She was speaking quickly, almost in a panic, with tears streaming down her puffy face. SHH, it's going to be okay. I tried to tell her but she only shook her head. Everest, the two were Lycans, I could sense it, but they had no scent to them. The way they moved and fought shows that they had training and were strong. They shot both the guards. I saw the one do it before I blacked out. I tried getting to her, I really did. I am sorry. I nodded and looked over at Jameson and nodded to come out in the hallway. He agreed and we took a silent walk, away from eavesdropping ears. Sarah gave me a description of who hit her. And it honestly sounded like Avalynn's first mate. I am going to make contact with her old pack and see if he can be accounted for. Do not let anyone speak to her other than our most trusted. I feel as though this is all set up from the Southern Territory. I got news this morning that there was an assassination attempt on the brother, again. Only this time he was captured. I ran a hand over my face. If you have to go there, I am coming with you, he stated, and I only nodded my head. Get a group of men and women together to go with us. We leave tomorrow before sun up. I turned to walk off away from the hospital and turned to look at him for a moment. If Amber is able to travel, I need her to go with us. She is the only one who can identify them. He nodded to me and we parted way. My phone was buzzing and it was Ted who had sent me a text. Ted, hey, so I can stay here with Sarah, I am only a driver after all. It'll be me, Joseph, and Alan taking shifts. Is this fine? I tried to link you but I understand why you have it blocked. Me, yes, that is fine, thank you. Tell them I thank them for volunteering to stay behind. I walked along the sidewalk and looked up at the sky that was quickly fading to the night. I will find you, my love. Whoever done this will pay. I will make sure of it. I promised to myself and to her. I walked and made my way to the training grounds and already was a group of roughly 15 or so men and Amber. I debriefed them and we were on our way, heading in the last known direction they went. Planning on stopping by different packs to gather any information we could. First stop would be Blood Moon, then to Crest Moon. I needed to speak to Alpha Michael, her brother Josh and her best friend Claire. I couldn't call them and tell them over the phone. They were set to arrive as a surprise to Avalynn within the next week. Maybe they could help. They will help. I felt lost and torn without her by my side. Avalynn POV. I looked out the window of the SUV, I stayed still and quiet as to not disturb the men in the front of me. They said few words between the two of them and when I noticed they would turn to look back at me I shut my eyes until I thought it was safe. I was watching the roads we took, trying to remember where we were. I quietly tried to come up with the best plan I possibly could to get free and away from these men. I felt alone and scared. I couldn't even get in touch with my Leekan. It was as if she had disappeared from my body entirely. I watched nothing but trees pass around us. The road for a long time was bumpy and rough. I was sure we were staying off the beaten path. I wonder if Everest was already looking for me yet? Surely he was. Just then I felt a volt of power shift through me as if Charlotte was trying to make her way to me. I had the sudden urge to rip the man's heart in front of me out from his chest through the seat. I felt Charlotte dig and claw right through whatever barrier had blocked her from me. Do it. I am here, fight and kill them. It was Charlotte, she was back and here with me. I let my claws elongate and felt Charlotte's rage pour into me. I channeled the rage and fear into one powerful source and sent my fist of claws into the back of the seat and into his back. When he gasped for air I ripped my hand back, taking his heart with me. I dropped it on the floor between my legs and feet. The man driving screamed obscenities at me as he slammed on the brakes, sending me slamming into the seat in front of me. He was reaching for the gun in his waist holster and I sliced his arm deep with my claws. Charlotte emerging and taking full control. How? You were supposed to be suppressed. He was shaking as we both fought for control over one another. I finally clenched my hands around his throat. But it wasn't strong enough. Charlotte growled as she squeezed. The man growled back as he began shifting and fighting back. Just then we felt a sharp pain deep into my back leg. I hadn't noticed the back door opened and some strange man was standing there with a smile on his face. He again injected me with something in my other leg. Hello, sweetie. My body forced Charlotte to step back and it was as if she was disappearing again. No, 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 this can't be happening. I could feel it, like a strong and thick blanket of fog enclosing her entire being. No matter how much she fought, it was no good, the fog hindered her from me. Soon she would be gone again. Stay strong. I can't, It's so strong. I will see you soon. Keep your wits about you. Everest will come. This is a strong magical potion. Stay strong and fight, do not trust them. Charlotte said before it felt as if she was gone. How feisty! How strong! How beautiful you are! The stranger was talking to me. He had a beautiful yet dangerous feeling to him. As he reached to pull me out, I felt my body not responding and slowly fading. Whatever he injected me with now forced my human side to sleep. You're perfect in every single way. Now you're mine, finally. I faintly heard him say as he carried me while he walked. My vision was blurred and my body went limp as I was now completely out of it. Avalynn POV. I felt the warm breeze kiss my cheeks and my eyes fluttered open. The smell of salt hung through the air and filled my lungs as I breathed. I listened before I dared to move, almost afraid. I heard the sound of water crashing softly in the background. I didn't hear anything, so I began to glance around the room. The windows were open as the curtains swayed with each gust of wind that passed through. The floor was tiled in a soft grey color. The bed I was laying across was a large white four-poster bed and everything else matched its style. There looked to be a overly large chair with a soft fuzzy light blue, grey, and white blanket draped over it. The walls were a pale blue with white trim and decorated in a beachy or coastal theme. It was honestly how I would picture my own beach house destination designing if I ever had one. Whoever designed this room did a great job, that much I could remember. I almost felt bad for having someone's blood spilled here. Almost. As I sat up in the bed, I inhaled deeply. All I could smell was the ocean and a vanilla scent that I assumed was coming from the candle that was lit on the small table next to the chair. I couldn't smell the scent of any other being. I listened carefully past the waves that were hitting the sanded beaches. I heard footsteps, and a woman speaking to someone in hushed tones. I tried, but I couldn't make out what she was saying. I noticed that my limbs were weak as I swung my legs over the bed. My arms felt heavy and my head was throbbing. I stood, and as soon as I did, the door swung open. In walking a man with handsome features. He was tall and broad and wore a smile on his face. He was carrying a tray of food, and I took a deep breath, able to smell the food under the cover. I smelled chicken and broccoli for certain, and my stomach growled. You've been asleep for a while. I figured it was about time for you to wake. I wanted to give you something to help rejuvenate your muscles. I had country fried steak, broccoli, mashed potatoes with gravy, green beans, mac and cheese, and rolls made for you. I wasn't sure what you liked, so I had a bit of everything made for you. He smiled at me. Who are you? I asked cautiously as he motioned for me to move to the small table across the room. My name is Dexter, Prince of the Southern Territory. Soon to be king. And you are my mate, Avalynn. He smiled at me again. I frowned. No, I already have a mate. Prince Everest of the Northern Territory. My stomach growled again, and I only took a small sip of the herbal tea. When I looked back at him, I felt a weird pull to him. I knew that it was wrong, and I pushed the feelings aside. I took a bite of my food and it was absolutely delicious. Was all I could manage. I am glad you like it. His smile widened as he stood and walked away to the door. I'll leave you to eat in peace. I would like to go for a walk with you though once you have finished. He left the door and I heard his footsteps disappear as he walked away. I sat and ate my dinner and wondered if I truly had two mates. I felt the pull, but it wasn't as strong as the mate bond with Everest. Charlotte. I called in my mind, but there was nothing but silence and a cold, empty feeling. I couldn't feel her at all, and that made me slightly uncomfortable to leave the room and go walk with him. Well, just to be around him in general actually. I had no way to fully protect myself against him and his leakin. It made me nervous to think about what could happen. It sent a wave of shivers down my spine. I ate a little bit of everything and I was feeling slightly better. The food giving me energy and made my limbs not seem as heavy as they were just a few moments ago. I stood and walked over to the large opened window and looked out at the view for the first time. It was beautiful. The sun was beginning to set and I realized that I indeed was out for some time. I could tell by the warmth and humidity that hung thick in the air we were definitely somewhere south. There was a knock on the door and I turned my attention in that direction. When I didn't answer, the knock came again. "Come in," I called out, slightly confused. In walked Dexter with a warm smile on his face. I felt a pull to him that I didn't like and fought against it. This man kidnapped me, drugged me and my leakin when we fought to get free, and took me away from the mate I want to be with. I could hear Charlotte in the back of my mind before she left to stay strong and to fight. I would do this. I would never let myself be too comfortable as long as I am here. "Enjoy dinner?" he asked me, bringing me back. I nodded my head. It was okay. "I feel much better. Let's walk. You won't need shoes as they make it harder to walk in the sand. Let's go." He motioned for me to walk, and when I didn't budge to go with him, he sighed softly. "I understand that you do not trust me. Why should you? I did take you away from the only love someone has showed you other than family. You see me as the bad guy. But I will never do anything to hurt you again, baby girl. I will earn your trust and eventually your love. You will soon see. I want to show you around your new home." I stayed where I sat and sighed. I am still feeling weak. I am not sure if a long walk would do me any good. He nodded. "Well, a tour of the home? I have elevators installed here, it will make it easier." He smiled and extended his hand out to me, offering help. I did say I felt weak, so I took his hand. His hand was warm and sent pleasant fluttering feelings through me. I frowned at the feeling as he shrugged it off as difficulty and weakness, when really I was repulsed at the feeling he gave me. As he gave me the tour of the beach mansion, my mind drifted to Everest. I missed him, his touch, his love, and his smile. This home was impressive, but it wasn't a home for me. It isn't what my heart yearned for. I wanted my home with my people, not this prince's fake love and obsession. "What do you think, baby girl? Is this place to your liking?" He smiled at me and I wished he would throw that creepy pet name into the ocean and the sea would carry it away. "It is a beautiful home. Thank you for showing it to me, but I am a bit tired and would like to go back to my room." I forced a smile. He walked me back to my room, and as my hand was on the door, he turned me around to look up at him. His face dipped down dangerously close to mine and I froze in my spot. His nose softly nuzzled against mine and his lips brushed against my own mouth. He pulled away as he moved to my ear, his breath hot against my skin. "Get some rest, I will see you for breakfast." He turned and walked away as I fumbled with turning the door to open it before going into my room and locking the door. How silly, I am sure he has a key to the room, I thought to myself as I slid off my shoes and curled up on the oversized chair. I looked around the empty room, feeling isolated and alone. I felt tears stream down my cheeks and I pulled the fuzzy blanket around me. I would allow myself a moment of sadness for now. I would not shed another tear after tonight. I slowly drifted into a light sleep. I woke up when my foot slipped from the chair and jolted me awake. It felt as if I had that weird dream where you're falling off a cliff or somewhere high up. My stomach growled and I looked at the clock on the wall. It was 1 in the morning. I stood up and unlocked the door. When I walked out, I was face to face with a large man who was sitting in a chair outside my door. "Where are you going at the hour?" he questioned. His voice was deep and angry sounding. "None of your business." I went to step past him and he gripped my arm, causing me to cry out with the pain that shot through it. "I may be a leakin, but that still hurt. I am going to the kitchen. Let me go." I pulled my free hand back and punched the jerk right in the face. He let out a loud growl and the door next to my room swung open and off the hinges and a large figure stepped out, already in his leakin form. He let out a loud deathly growl and my arm was instantly let go. The leakin came between me and this guy and he snapped at the hand that was holding me. When his teeth clamped down on the man's wrist, I turned and went back into my room, slamming the door shut. Flashbacks of my mother's death plagued my mind. I closed my eyes tightly and took a deep breath when I heard shouting outside my door. The shouting was over me and the voice shouting was Dexter. He was angry at the man for laying his hand on me. I looked down at my arm, which was already badly bruised. I listened to them argue back and forth and finally it was silence. I could hear someone trying to control their breathing before a knock came on the door. I looked at the door for a moment before I opened it. Dexter was looking back at me before his eyes went to my bruised arm. "I am so very sorry for that. You will never have to see Steven again. He has been dismissed for his behavior with you. That was unacceptable and he is lucky to be living. I am so sorry." He looked down at the ground. "It isn't your fault," I offered. "It is because I put him up as a bodyguard for you and he did the opposite," he countered. "Want to join me for a snack?" That is where I wanted to go when this all happened. I offered because I was still hungry and I was afraid he would want to come into my room. He nodded and stepped back away from the door to allow me to come out of the room. I shut the door behind me and we began our stroll to the kitchen. When we reached downstairs and stepped off the elevator, the man that gripped my arm had a duffel bag over his shoulder as he was exiting the kitchen. "You will pay for this, Dexter. Burning one too many bridges for this whore." He looked at me and my eyes widened. But I felt something small, hope maybe? Would he be the reason Everest finds me? I looked at Dexter and put a hand on his arm and he looked down to me. Let him go with his empty threats. I looked back at the man named Steven and gave him a pleading look to run. As if to catch on, he left without another word. We walked into the kitchen together and sat down for a small snack. Once done, he walked me to my room, kissed me upon my cheek and I went to bed, falling asleep rather quickly. My dreams were filled with a mixture of horrors and fighting amongst many warriors. Everest met me in my dream and when he held me in his arms nothing mattered. Not the horrors, not the fighting, only we mattered, only his love blocked out the bad of everything else. When I woke I looked up at the ceiling and clung to the hope of seeing my mate soon. Stephen POV I ran all night only stopping for food, water, and restroom breaks. I made my way to the southern castle territory lines. When I crossed over the castle territory lines mid-morning my presence was known immediately and I was surrounded within a few minutes by several Leaken forces close to the king. I knew I had done wrong but Dexter had been my best friend. I warned him and told him I wasn't comfortable but he ended up getting his way. I shifted back into my human form as to show I am not posing as a threat to them or anyone. Soon Dexter's brother, the now king was present. He was angry and I bowed to him knowing if he wanted he could kill me right here right now. Rise! He commanded and I did as he told me. What are you doing here, Stephen? His voice was laced with hatred. King Brent, please allow me to give you exactly what you want. I offered. What is it that I want? He countered. I inhaled and paused before speaking my loyalty to Dexter holding me back for a moment. Although now that I crossed into the castle territory it would have been too late to offer up where your brother Dexter is along with the kidnapping crimes of the future Northern Territory's future queen and the murder of King Randolph of the Northern Territory. All linking back to Dexter who has killed your father and is attempting an assassination against the now king of the Southern Territory, you, King Brent. I looked at him and never let my eyes drift from his. I could read every expression that crossed his face. Sadness, shock, and more than the others anger. I heard his breathing change and his fingers clenched and balled into a fist by his side. Very well, come with me. We have many things to discuss it seems. He responded and I let out a breath of air I didn't know I held in. We walked inside the castle walls and inside, making our way into his office. What do you want in return for this information? King Brent asked as he sat down behind his desk, motioning for me to sit. I sat, gladly my body aching from the overnight and morning run. I shrugged my shoulders. Immunity from the crimes your brother forced upon me, being his right-hand man and of a higher rank than my own Leaken I was forced to comply. With this I will tell you everything, all of his plans for the future and what he has done. I crossed my arms over my chest and watched the king contemplate before I broke the silence and of course hot food and a bed for rest. He nodded and leaned for a pen and a pad of paper. Very well, let us begin. I gave him everything. I even threw that girl Sarah and that stupid wolf Ryder under the bus. King Brent wanted names, and I gave them to him. I started from the beginning and led up until this morning. He plans on trying to overtake the Northern Territory after assassinating you and the Northern King. I leaned back in my seat and watched anger and rage flow through him. So it was my brother who killed our father? Tried to kill me. He slammed his fist into the desk. Thank you for the information. Where is he keeping her? The coastal beach house. He has about 200 men scattered throughout there on guard. Where he found them, I do not know. It's a mixture of lichens and wolves. I offered. I see. Well, thank you. You may go. I have many phone calls to make. Stay close, I am going to need you. He looked up from his pad of paper. He was already dialing a number and whoever was on the other end picked up and sounded angry as the door shut behind me. I felt a pang of guilt as I walked away from the king's office. I was met by a small framed woman and led to a room. I walked in and food was set up in a nice bed with an attached restroom so I could clean up. I ate, cleaned myself up and collapsed on the bed. I ended up falling asleep for a few hours before a knock was on the door. When I opened it, King Brent was on the other side. I hope you are well rested because I got in touch with King Everest and we are meeting him at our borders. Also you need to tell me where that wolf is. He demanded. Which wolf? I asked. The one who murdered King Randolph. He responded. Oh, he is in a hideout at the beach house. He plans on going back to his pack but wanted to lay low. I offered freely. Thank you. He already had his phone out and I assumed texting King Everest. When he put the phone away we left together with a large amount of warriors by our side and behind us. I was thankful to now be on this side of the fight. Everest POV. We were at Blood Moon Pack when I got the phone call about Avalynn. She was alive and being held captive. Sarah had a major role in everything that happened and I was very disappointed in her. I sent a text to my mother to have the guards take Sarah to the underground jail cells. She agreed without a question. Why? I found out from Jamie that Ryder left 2 days in and no one bothered to think of notifying Alpha Michael that he left. Of course no one thought he would go off the rails like this either. Jamie was now the Luna to Blood Moon and she sincerely apologized to me. She and Alpha Alex offered any help that would be needed without asking. I may need that help. My blood was boiling inside but on the outside I stayed calm. As much as I wanted to rip through everything and everyone I kept my cool. It took everything I had to rein control over my beast. My phone dinged again and I checked the text. It was from King Brent. King Everest the wolf, Ryder, is currently hiding out at my brother's beach mansion on the coastline. I am on the way to meet you at our border. I didn't respond and closed the message looking at Alex and Jamie both. I am going to need your strongest warriors. Send them to the castle. I fear that Dexter is planning on a war. I need you to be with them, Alex. Leave your father to be in charge over here until you are able to return. Stop by Silver Lake, Blood Rose, and White Claw Pack and give them these. I will send a message to each Alpha. You have 1 week and we will return along with members of Crest Moon. Crest Moon? Isn't that Alpha Michael's son's pack? Alex asked me and turned to look back down to Jamie who only nodded. It is, unfortunately, but his future beta is also my mate's brother. People may be torn on who to follow if Alpha Michael does not fall in line. I responded and followed with an annoyed sigh. What a mess this is for everyone involved. I will go with you to Crest Moon for support if you need me to. Jamie offered. No need, I have a feeling people will comply easy enough. Especially when I tell them what has happened to their future queen. Thank you, Jamie. I know you and Avalynn didn't get along. She held her hand up to stop me from talking. No, and it was entirely my fault. My ears were poisoned by the hatred from Ryder. I was too infatuated by his power that I was too blind to see the truth. For that I could never make it better to her. ORU. I very much deserved that ass-whopping she gave me back in Crest Moon. I was an ass. Please excuse me as I need to pack our things pretty quickly so we can get going. She bowed her head down before turning to leave. She will forgive you, in time I am sure. I called out after her. I can only hope. Was her response as she disappeared around a corner. I turned, Alex waiting for me patiently to walk back. I had a very tight schedule to keep and he knew I had to head off to Crest Moon. We walked to my SUV in silence. We shook hands and he lowered his head to me. "Thank you, Alex. I will be in touch," I told him. "Not a problem, safe travels King Everest. If you need anything else, do not hesitate," he responded as the door shut. We were off to Crest Moon. 4-hour car ride later we were approaching the territory of Crest Moon. Wolves surrounded us until they got the scent of who was in the car, letting us pass through. They still followed us closely, obviously curious as to what could cause King Everest to grace their presence, even if my mate's brother was soon to be their beta. When we pulled into the half-circle drive, Alpha Michael was already standing outside. News had spread like wildfire that my father was dead, but I am hoping that is all that had spread. Seeing an excited-looking Claire, I assumed I was correct. I told my men to keep it on the hush until proper parties were known. When I got out and the door shut behind me without my mate exiting, I saw Claire's face drop in disappointment. I looked around and Josh was walking up and his eyes darted around, obviously looking for his sister. His face also dropping in disappointment, but only momentarily. "Welcome King Everest, I wish this could be on better circumstances. With that said, we are all very sorry to hear of the late king, your father." Alpha Michael spoke. My jaw muscles tightened and I inhaled deeply. "Thank you. I need to speak with you, Josh, and Claire privately." My eyes darted to the others momentarily. They seemed surprised and not in a good way. When we walked into Michael's office, I sat down on one of the couches and motioned for them to sit as well. I let out a long sigh as I looked at all of them. "Josh, Claire." I paused for a moment before gathering my words and pushing back the emotion that was making it hard to speak. "Avalynn was taken by Dexter. I know where he is keeping her, but he had help and Michael, your son, is involved." I watched the sadness in Josh and Claire's face. I watched Alpha Michael's anger boil. "Are you absolutely sure about this?" Michael asked through gritted teeth. "I am. I have a description and a witness who knows his name, pack, everything." I paused before continuing. "He hasn't been at Blood Moon for a while now. He was there not even a day, it seems. Jamie's mate is Alpha Alex and it seems he is wanting revenge. So he found Dexter and they have teamed up, and with that he has killed my father and aided Dexter in the kidnapping of my mate." I let out a low growl. Michael's fist was clenched and he shook his head. "I can't do this. I cannot kill my only son." He looked over at Josh and Claire, then back at me. "I understand, but I will need your support, regardless of who the circumstances are around. They're raising an army to overtake the Northern Territory to demolish the Southern Territory so he can be king over all." He sighed and looked at Josh again, and I could already tell what he was thinking as he said it, and knew Josh would be perfect. "Josh, you have shown great promise and have flourished. I am naming you the successor Mount Alpha of Crest Moon Pack. Do you accept?" "King Everest, I am asking your permission to accept this bloodline to take my place effective immediately." He looked at me with a hint of sadness in his eyes. I knew how difficult this had to be on him. He knew that his son could no longer be an alpha. He knew his son would pay for the crimes he committed. He knew he would soon lose his son. I nodded slightly, of course. "Josh, do you accept?" Josh was wide-eyed and stuttered his words out. I do accept. Good. Then it is settled and we shall have a ceremony tonight and I will take you and Claire and your warriors with me to the Southern Territory. We are meeting with King Brent and the escaped Leakin who has all of the information we need to get your sister back. Now, if you all would excuse me, I need to let my Leakin out. I stood and left the room, running to the tree line and shifting in mid-run and crashing into a tree, it collapsing to the ground. Avalynn POV. As I sat up on the bed, I moved a hand over my eyes. I yawned and stretched my tired, stiff muscles. Breakfast was already set up and still had steam rolling off of it. I slid out of my bed and walked over to it. I sniffed it cautiously, trying to see if anything smelled out of the ordinary. No matter how nice Dexter was being to me, I still did not trust him. I looked at the eggs that had a weird herbal mix in them and pushed them to the side. There was, however, an unopened box of cereal and I munched on that instead. I took bits and pieces of the food that I didn't eat and made it seem like I did eat it. I scraped small bits of each into the toilet and flushed it down the drain. I washed my hands 3 times over and left the bathroom. I don't know what he's given me, but I wanted Charlotte back. I decided if I didn't make it I wouldn't eat it. I decided to slip out of my room and go to the beach for a walk. Surprisingly enough, no one had followed me out, though I could still feel eyes on me. It was a warm, breezy day, and as I stood at the water's edge I watched the waves crash over my bare feet. It was almost therapeutic in a way. I promised myself that as long as I was here that I would visit the beach almost every day. It would be my safe haven. A place to find myself and figure a way out of this place. I wrote my name in the sand before a wave came and made it disappear. After an hour I heard someone approach me from behind. I pretended to not hear them and let them stand there, waiting for me to acknowledge them. When I didn't, he cleared his throat, causing me to roll my eyes. "What can I do for you?" I asked, never turning to face him. "I was just coming to check on you and make sure everything was all right." Dexter was now standing beside me as I sat on the beach. I never made eye contact with him. "I am fine." I felt a weird tingle sensation, like someone was trying to reach me. I pushed it down and back. Now wasn't the time when Dexter was standing next to me. "I am glad you are fine. We will be leaving the beach house in a week, maybe sooner. I promise we can come back, if you want. It looks like you enjoy the view here." He was kneeling now and I looked at him and nodded. "I would love to revisit the beach again, someday. I really would love to bury your face into the sand right about now and rip you from limb to limb." I heard a brief voice float through my head. "Seems like she's doing this the easy way. Thanks to those special herbs by that witch. I'll have to keep incorporating them into her diet until I mark her as mine." I sat there and didn't respond and pretended as if nothing was wrong. Honestly, inside I was screaming and wanted to run. I decided I would run, tonight. After everyone was asleep I would go. I knew those eggs looked weird. Someone else came up to us and passed Dexter a note. I knew I should have ended him. He gripped the paper in his fist and looked at me. "We leave tonight. We will be joined by others." He stood and looked down to me. "Be ready in 2 hours." What?" I asked, halfway confused and angry because my plans were now ruined. "That scum that hit you has betrayed me and is putting your life in danger," he shouted, and I flinched back. "Oh. is all I could manage and felt hope nearly consume me. I watched as he stomped off angrily back to the house and I looked out to the ocean and smiled. He just got done telling me in a week we would be moving, but instead we are now leaving in just a few hours. Which means Everest got word on where we are. I stood up and made my way back to the house and knew I needed to stall as much as I possibly could. I got a cloth and ran it under hot water and placed it on my face. I figured it would give the feeling that I was burning up. I left the room when my cheeks looked flushed and searched for him. I didn't know if this was going to work, but when I reached him I stood and looked at him. "Are you ready?" he asked and looked up at me, and he frowned at my appearance. I. And I made myself drop to the floor. I ended up hitting my head in the process and it was an instant headache. I heard him rush over to me and repeat my name as he lifted my torso into his lap. "Avalynn? Ava. Wake up, baby girl. Avalynn. Someone get medical. Now." He sounded panicked as he rocked me to his body. It was repulsive and it made me want to throw up. He began talking to me again. "Ah. You're bleeding too. You must have hit your head also when you fainted. I could smell it now, my blood. Which means I shouldn't travel for a few more days and be monitored for a concussion." I heard someone burst into the room and they spoke to one another. She came in here, I assume to tell me she was ready. She looked flushed and she couldn't even get her sentence out before she collapsed. On the way down she hit her head on the curve of the leg on the table. "Now she's bleeding," he explained. "Let's get her to a couch or bed. I need to check her." The voice was deep. I felt myself being lifted in Dexter's arms and moved to a bed. My hair was being moved as a towel tapped the spot that was bleeding. "I know you said we must leave today, but she cannot travel at all. She needs at the least 2 days, maybe 3 before she can travel," he told Dexter. "Are you kidding me?" he asked sarcastically. "No, I am afraid that the blow to the head requires rest to heal and not that stress of traveling," he said in a serious tone. "Since you have her leaken suppressed, she will not heal as quickly. One of my spies said that my brother is heading north with a ton of warriors. Which means Everest has probably contacted him. This is a disaster. I need my warriors." He stood and I heard him pacing. "I need to figure out what could have caused her to pass out in the first place. Do you know if she had eaten something?" he asked Dexter, and there was a long pause, followed by a sigh. "Yes, these herbs. The witch said dry is more dangerous. I may have used too much. It's to suppress her leaken, and I have a scent masking that I placed in her orange juice," he responded, and as much as I wanted to scream I knew it, I remained still. "My recommendation is to stop giving them to her. You could have killed the poor girl." I heard Dexter sigh. "How am I going to do this then? Give her a shot every single time?" "No, that won't do," he said. "Call the witch. See if she could help you." He offered that solution. "Not that easy. I could take what she loves most, like I took from her last time when she helped." He was pondering and I realized the witch was forced. It got me wondering what she almost lost. Brilliant plan. I'll have my men on that quest then. I'll force her to put up a hiding spell around us so it'll appear that we aren't here." He laughed. "Wonderful idea, sir. Anything else?" The deep voice asked. No, you're free to go. Thank you. He responded, and I then felt his hand on my forehead and face, caressing my skin. I am so sorry I have hurt you. I will figure out a way, a better way to show you my love for you. The love you will have for me, you will see soon, baby girl, you will see soon. He paused and I heard him messing with his phone. I could hear the faint sound of ringing followed by a soft woman's voice. Dexter, what can I do for you? The woman asked him. I need your help, again, with my special princess. He said flatly. I told you I was done, I paid my debt to you when you forced me to help you. You killed my sister and you took my niece last time. I just got her back, please Dexter, leave me alone. Her voice sounded sad and my heart broke for her. That is fine to deny the prince of his requests, but remember it comes at a price. Better spend what little time you have left then with her. I heard her gasp, but then silence. I wanted nothing more to jump up out of this bed and destroy him. Just as I was about to move, a wave of pain made its way through my head. Almost like my body telling me in time, save up your energy. I had hoped that the witch would be smart and run. Miranda POV, that piece of crap. Sorry excuse of a prince trying to threaten me. How dare he? I paid the price that my brother left me with. He thinks he can just waltz in here and take Cassie again? He has another thing coming. I walked through both of our rooms and packed 3 changes of clothes for myself and 5 for her. She, being 3, was a bit more messy than myself. I packed up her favorite snacks and walked into her playroom. Her playroom was a small extra bedroom and it was perfect for her destruction of toys. Cassie, sweetie. She turned to me and her bright green eyes landed on me and she smiled. Cassie, we are going to go bye-bye for a few, pick 2 toys to take. I told her and watched her decide very carefully on who to take. She picked up her stuffed rabbit she carried around and a teddy bear and walked to me. Okay sweet girl, let's go. We left my small home and I knew what I had to do. I must go to the new king of the Northern Territory and confess. Plead for mercy and hope that they understand that if I didn't do as Dexter said, Cassie would be dead. My eyes teared up at that thought. I placed some herbs in a necklace and hung it on my rear view mirror. It hid my scent and Cassie's. I buckled her into her seat, gave her a snack and her juice and we were off. I drove the opposite direction before turning around to make sure that no one was following me. Once all was clear, I headed north. It would take a day or so to reach the territory border. We would stop at the small human town that seemed to split north and south. We would stay in a hotel room, have breakfast, then be on our way again. I looked in my rear view and Cassie was munching on her snacks. She was bobbing her little head to the music playing and it brought a smile to my face. I would make sure that she would survive this, even if I did not survive until next week. The crimes I committed were punishable by death. I prayed to the gods and goddesses that a small light of mercy be shown. When we arrived to the small town, I pulled up to a hotel room, shocked at what I saw. A large mixture of fancy, detailed black SUVs were outside. I sat in my car and watched, and when I saw King Brent shaking hands with King Everest, I thanked the heavens above that they were both here. I hurriedly got Cassie out of her seat and threw her on my hip. Bless her, she couldn't walk fast enough as I was rushing to catch them both before they went wherever they were heading. Wait! I shouted, please, wait! King Brent, King Everest. I watched as they stopped and heaved a breath of fresh air, almost panting. Who are you? King Brent asked. I am Miranda, a witch from the south. I have to talk to you both. Please, somewhere private. Your brother. Just then a hand went up and motioned for us to follow. I followed and held Cassie close to my body as I followed the two large men into a room, the door closing behind me. Everest POV. This woman showed up out of nowhere with a child clinging to her body. She looked overtired and way too stressed, but also determined at the same time. She didn't look as if she was a day older than maybe 20. When we walked into the room, we motioned for her to sit. She complied and sat the young child in her lap. The little girl had her thumb in her mouth and I am assuming her favorite blanket with her. Please, go ahead with information on my brother, Miranda. King Brent told her. Well, you see, I wasn't expecting to run into both of you here, but I am glad you did. You know my brother, Garrison. She paused and waited for King Brent to nod and continued, well, he got into debt with your brother, Prince Dexter. I don't know what he did or how or anything, I just know he wasn't able to repay whatever it was to bring him out of it. She paused and I saw Brent shake his head and lean forward with a hand over his face. She looked nervously over to me and began talking again. Well, your brother murdered mine and took my niece. She looked down at the child for a moment and tears were threatening to spill over. He took her and came after me. After a man beat me, he threatened to kill her if I didn't do as he said. He said my brother owed a significant debt and then he gave me his head. Tears now freely streamed down her face as she talked, hugging the child tightly to her. I did as he told me for her life, and for that I am sorry. Please spare her, even if you have to kill me. I helped him with your mate, I didn't know what else to do. You were in the hospital and he was in command. I didn't know what to do. I stood, rage filling me that this witch helped that bastard. What did you do? I yelled. I gave him potion and a herbal blend to mask her scent and suppress the leakin inside of her. He said I was finished and we could live in peace, but he just recently contacted me. Wanted my help again and I refused him and he threatened her life and mine. She still had tears streaming down her face. I sat down and realized she had no choice in the matter, and yes, what she done is technically punishable by death. Rules could be bent and I sighed. Miranda, SHH. My voice was quiet and soft. You're safe here, she is safe here. You have nothing to fear here. She sniffed and nodded, thank you, thank you. She kissed the top of the child's head. There were others involved. A woman named Sarah, a wolf named Ryder, and he has many other people that are helping him. Also, when he threatened me this last time, it was so I could make a weaker spell. The original one was supposedly making her sick and she collapsed and has a concussion. He was wanting it so they could move locations. Thank you. We will pay for your room and if you would like, travel with us and our warriors. If you want to help us out, it would be welcomed. King Brent offered her. Thank you, King Brent. I will gladly and proudly offer any assistance to either of you if and when you need it. She stood. If you would excuse us, I need to get her some food and settled into our room. Of course. I said. Thank you both, for understanding, letting me help, the room. Everything. She said and smiled to us both before leaving. I leaned my head back to rest on the wall and sighed loudly. You okay? I know that must have not been easy to do. Especially after what she confessed to doing. Brent stood and walked over to the window. Yet. My Leekan wanted to rage when she said it but quickly realized she had no other option. I said. Her brother was a good guy too. He worked for the castle and helped out the less fortunate. I don't know what my brother had on him, but it must have either been big or he lied to manipulate her. That I very well wouldn't put past him to do. He was watching her, I could tell. He turned to look at me. Was the other information she gave you consistent with the previous information? It was near the same. Which means the woman who was struck and knocked out was a part of it all along. I sighed and shook my head. I was disgusted in myself for choosing someone so terrible to fool around with, but she was there and I needed a release. Still was no excuse, my father was right. She was a bad egg. I looked up at Brent. So about the plan, what do you think we should do? He nodded. Whatever we do, we need to do it quickly. He knows something is up and wants to change locations on us. We need to be there by tomorrow night. Let me reach out to my warriors who were to meet us. I stepped out of the room and made the few phone calls needed. They will all be here early tomorrow morning. Maybe even before the sun rises. Then we can give them a few hours rest and move out tomorrow afternoon. My men will be tired, but they will be fine. A 2-hour nap for a wolf is like a 4-hour nap to a human. I walked back in and filled in Brent. We then both left to fill in the members who were with us. Claire and Amber were chit-chatting away over future plans for Avalynn, and it made me smile. Their positive outlook shined brightly over the future, and I was looking forward to putting this in the past. The next few hours were busy with strategy plans and a draw-up of the land. We knew he had others there, hiding out to watch for anything incoming. We wanted to make sure that every possible exit area was covered. Lucky enough for us, we had a bit of inside help on where wolves or other lichens would be stationed. The wolves were first, of course, because he had no care to their life. He knew if anything was to happen they would be easily wiped out. Some king he would have been. He seemed to discard lives that weren't as strong as him. It made me sick. Avalynn POV. I sat up in the bed as I was the only one in my room and looked around. I slept a few hours, and by the looks of things it was still early morning, or just extra cloudy outside. I couldn't tell honestly. I looked at my hands before using them to smooth my hair down. I felt something inside my mind pushing. It felt like a strong force, and I smiled. It has been a full day since I smacked my head when I faked my collapse. It worked out in the long run, because if that was Charlotte trying to push through, I was about to be a force to be reckoned with. I smiled to myself when a soft knock came at the door. I slouched in the bed. Come in. I answered softly. Dexter walked through the door with a smile. I forced a smile back to him. How are you feeling? I still have a headache, but I guess a little better. I lied. I felt perfectly fine. I was just trying to stall him from moving. I am glad you're feeling better. Let's get you a shower and breakfast, and then we will see how you're feeling after. He demanded, and I nodded. I looked at him. He looked like he hadn't slept much, and that made me smile inwardly. He is worried, and he should be. I watched as he stood up and looked around my room before looking at me again. He seemed as if he wanted to say something, but instead, he turned on his heel and walked to the door. "Take your shower, I will see you in an hour or so." He shut the door behind him. I could go for a nice extra hot shower. I stood and made my way to the bathroom and turned on the water. I looked at my wild hair and sighed. This was definitely going to need washed a few times. I could tell there was dried blood stuck to my scalp and hair. When the water was at my desired temp, I stepped in and washed myself. I took my time in there and enjoyed the water running over my body. I washed every square inch of my body and got out. I ran a brush through my hair and put lotion on my skin. I got myself ready and walked back into the bedroom. I sat down in the big comfy chair and a few minutes later a knock came. "Come in," I said as I looked through a magazine. Dexter entered with some fresh fruit, an unopened box of cereal, unopened small carton of milk and toast. He sat it down in front of me. "Sorry, a lot of the things we had on hand have went bad unexpectedly. Apparent one of our large walk-in refrigerators went bad. Of course that one house most of our food." I knew he was lying, but I knew why. Everything in there had the special herbal blend mixed in from the witch. Seeing how he believes it made me sick, he wasn't about to give it to me. "That's fine, this is perfect. Thank you very much." I smiled, knowing I had been successful. I prepped my cereal and opened up a banana, slicing it into my cereal. I cut up a few strawberries and added in a few blueberries to a separate bowl. I noticed he hadn't left and made himself comfortable, and after I took my first bite, chewing and swallowing, I asked him, "So, what have I missed? Anything exciting?" He smiled and shook his head. "You haven't missed much. A witch is threatening your life. We are seeking her out, well, hunting her really." "Oh? Why my life?" I asked him. Because you're the missing key," he said. "Missing key?" I wondered what that meant as he only nodded at me. Is that a reason why my family wanted to protect me, or was he lying to me? Probably lying, because I knew the witch didn't want to kill me, so I pushed the matter. "How am I a missing key? What does that mean?" I raised my brow. "It means that when you become queen, you become the queen of all things. All things from vampires, wolves, lycans, and witches." He was looking at me. "Oh. I have never heard of that. No one's told me," I responded. "That's because a rival Lycan clan took out your family when you were just a baby." He looked away for a moment. "Enough of that though. You will learn more. I do not want to tire you out when you just woke up. We will be leaving tonight and moving further south. I want you to be as safe as possible. Seeing how you are moving about and your appetite seems to be back, I would assume it's safe to say you can travel." He smiled. "But I do want to know more about what you said, please." I wanted to know if it was true or not. If it was, I wanted to know more. "Baby girl, you will be the queen of all things when you are ready. The goddess has sent me a vision and it shall be made true. But that is enough for now, please. It's for your own safety to not stress your mind too much." He smiled at me. He's a good liar. A very soft and weak voice drifted through my mind. "Charlotte." I spoke to her through my mind. "You can hear me?" She sounded so very weak. "I can." Are you okay? I was so worried I would never be able to hear you again. I told her. I don't know what herbal mix he gave us, but it nearly killed me. I will be here, but I need rest. It will take time for me to regain my strength. Do not overdo it and take it easy, was the last I heard from her. I felt Charlotte retreat to the back of my mind. It gave me another sense of newfound hope. With her I was naturally stronger, even if she was weaker. I just needed to stay away from herbs and let her regain her strength. I don't really know how long that would take, but hopefully not too long. Are you okay? Dexter's voice brought me back. I am. I had a vision. I think. If he lied, I can too. A vision. This intrigued him and he leaned closer to me. Yes. It has never happened before, so I was kind of shocked. I let out a soft laugh. Would you like to hear? I would very much like to know what you saw. His tongue darted out and licked along his lips as he was hungry. I saw myself wearing my king's marking. I saw my king by my side leading our people. Many people cheering for us over our victories and destroying our enemies. We looked so happy. I looked at him and smiled. I saw him relax a bit and I had Charlotte laugh inside. Look at that fool. He believes you are talking about him. She continued to laugh. I figured that this may let him bring down his guard some. I had hoped that it would anyway. That sounds pretty great. Where were we? He asked. I'm not sure, I have never been there before. I put a confused look on my face. Must be my home city then. You haven't been there before? He responded. Oh, maybe. It seemed beautiful. I smiled. It is a very beautiful city with a river that splits right through, clear water. So many parks and flowers with cobblestone pathways. I cannot wait to show you. He leaned to me and placed his hand in mine. His touch made my stomach turn. I hated it. Charlotte gagged inside and turned away, shielding herself from it. I looked down at his hand and back up to him and forced a smile. Seriously, my cheeks were hurting from all of this smiling I was forcing. It wasn't coming naturally and it was terrible. I leaned back and looked out the window. I was going to miss the ocean. I had never felt sand before coming here, or smelled the salt sea air, or laid eyes upon the vast never-ending ocean. It had a sense of tranquility to it. It definitely brought me peace in all this unknown hostility that seemed to hang in the air around me. We will visit again very soon, baby girl. You will be back. He pat my leg and I only smiled. I would be back, without him and with my true mate. I want to rip his hand away from mine, but I couldn't. Come on, we need to leave. He stood up. Where are we going? I looked at him before moving. We are going deeper south, inland in a small town surrounded by mountains. He smiled. Oh, that is much different than here. I looked out the window again. I guess I would be better protected there. I looked at him. He smiled and nodded his head. Indeed. Ready? I nodded and stood, walking with him to the door. Oh. Let me try to use the restroom first, that way we can travel longer. I turned away, hatching a small plan to leave a clue. Good idea, I will meet you downstairs. He left me alone. I waited for the door to close and I rushed to the side table. I pulled out the pad and pen and wrote a few notes on our location we were moving to. I scattered them in random spots around the room and bathroom. I really had to go, so I made it quick, washed my hands, and met him downstairs. Sorry, my stomach seems to be a little off. Maybe because I wasn't able to eat yesterday. I felt a little sick. It's okay, no worries. Ready? He led me outside and I looked around and saw what seemed like hundreds of wolves and lichens. Ready? We got into our vehicle and took off. It was going to be a long trip and I was thankful I was in the back seat alone. He was sitting up front with the driver, chatting. I knew he would eventually make his way back to sit with me. I leaned my forehead against the window and watched our surroundings fly by us. I could see the lichens and wolves running next to the car. The speed we were able to keep up was honestly impressive when you thought about it. I watched them leap over obstacles or break through dead trees as if they were nothing. I wondered how many of them were blindly following Dexter and how many were forced to be here. Some of the wolves held the lingering stench of a rouge. This being newly formed odd pack of some sorts, the outcast odor has not had time to wear off. I sat up suddenly and realized my senses were coming back. I slowly breathed in and could smell different scents. A smile crossed my lips and I settled back in my seat. How are you feeling, Charlotte? Better by every passing second, every passing minute. Good. Our strong sense of smell is back. I won't let anyone know, of course. Good, now we will be able to detect when mate is near. Yes, we will. Get some rest. We are going to need it soon, I fear. I will be sure to let you know when we need to shift. Charlotte retreated back in my mind and I looked at the clock on the dash. It was now 2 and I needed to get out, stretch, and eat. As if right on cue, my stomach made a very loud growling sound, causing Dexter to look back. We will be stopping soon. Probably 15 minutes or so. He smiled at me and I nodded. Good, I need to use the restroom and I need food. I laughed as my stomach grumbled again. I planned on taking my time and being super indecisive on my selections, then changing my mind after I choose something for something different. Everest POV. We arrived to the beach mansion just after noon. The sun was high up in the sky and it was strangely quiet. We could still smell the scents of lichens and wolves and a hint of rouge wolves. As we slowly made our way to the walls, we sat and listened for a moment for any movements or signs of life at all. After a few minutes of not hearing anything, we, King Brent and myself, decided to go through the front gate. I want this entire place searched, now. Bring us any clues you may find. Our warriors all spread out and searched at our command. I followed Brent inside and I could smell her, but barely. She was alive when she left and I breathed her scent in. It was my small slice of heaven in a world where I had been living in hell. She was here. I looked at him and took off, following the scent she left behind. I stopped behind a door that must have been the room she stayed in. I could smell the hints of another and growled at the smell, even if it wasn't strong. I opened the door and looked around the room. This was definitely where she stayed. Her scent was like an intoxicating drug that clung to the air. I walked in and looked around. The bed was unmade and a blanket was on a chair. I looked down and saw a magazine and picked it up. A small piece of paper slipped out and it had writing on it. When I opened it I read it go south, between the mountains is where we are heading. I will be there anxiously awaiting your arrival. All of my love. I read the small note about 10 times. Between the mountains? There are many mountains. I just stood there until Brent entered the room. I handed him the note and watched him as he read it. I frowned when he did and panic ran through me. This is interesting. He finally spoke. What is? Do you know where they're heading? I questioned. He shrugged. I might. But we have 2 mountain homes. So which should we choose? Could it be a setup? I asked him and he nodded. It could be. Knowing my brother, he may have an ambush planned for us at this location. The other home we have is further out west. We could head them off and beat them there if we go straight there. I am sure of it. He began pacing the floor and I could tell Brent was conflicted. Brent, how sure are you that we will beat him there? I raised my brow. About 90%. Only because he is such a control freak, he will want to make sure things are set up correctly. He nodded as if confirming what he said out loud. Yes, let's go to the one out west. If he doesn't show within 2 days we will move to the one this note is talking about. Have your men who is to be meeting us, meet us here. It'll be a day's drive, stop for fuel and food to go only. He began linking his men the plan. I linked my people as well and we walked out to look for the witch. When we found her she was out front watching Cassie pick flowers. Miranda. She looked at me. Do you think when we get to where we are going you can put a masking scent on us? Absolutely. Anything you need me to do, I will do it. I am forever in your debt. Her attention went back to Cassie as she talked. Time to get moving again. It is. It will be about a day's worth of traveling. I was worried it may be a bit longer. I am sure traveling with a toddler was no easy task. We are ready whenever everyone else is. Meet you in the SUV. She gathered up Cassie and took her inside. I walked to the SUV and got in. Soon Brent joined us, then Miranda and Cassie. We all, including all of the warriors, left in search of my mate and Brent's brother, Dexter. Dexter POV. When we stopped for fuel and food, Avalynn was taking her precious time. She didn't realize this, but one of my men swept through her room and found a note she had left behind. I knew my brother and her mate would now meet us in the place I told her. Only we wouldn't be there. The wolves I sent for were already there and 20 or so lichens were with them. We would stop in and I would give them the plan and leave them there to attack my brother and King Everest. They would never see it coming. While they were too busy with that, we would be out west where I will forcefully mark Avalynn and she will be mine. Any connection she has with him will be gone, for good. I watched Avalynn emerge with a soda and a bunch of different foods and sweets. I smiled as I watched her gracefully make her way to me. Her long legs seemed to be gliding as if she were walking on a cloud, her hips swaying perfectly. I wanted to be buried between them, eating her delicious nectar, tasting every inch of her body. Got everything you need? I asked her. Yup. She got into the SUV and I slid in after her. We sat in the back together and both ate our foods quietly as we made our way. I decided I would wait to tell her the change of plans a little later. Blame it on grocery shopping or some other stupid excuse. I smiled to myself. She was going to flip her shit. Avalynn POV. The ride was long and boring with lots of trees flying by quickly. Luckily for me, I had some great snacks. When we finally reached the mountain range, I began to get excited. I was just a few hours away from seeing my mate. I couldn't wait to see the look on Dexter's face when Everest showed up to rescue me and be my hero. Charlotte was getting stronger by each passing moment. I could feel my strength, my body feeling more normal. Each passing minute, hours even, we were getting closer to where we needed to be. It was almost like an explosive energy. I wanted to run, train, or fight just to let it out. When the car turned into a driveway, I looked around. The house was indeed nestled between the mountains. The mountains were beautiful, full, and rich with life all around. As I inhaled the mountain air, it was crisp and fresh smelling. I heard the small forest animals up in the woods. When he got out, he held up his hand for me to wait. Wait here, for just a moment, baby girl. I need to check things out first before I allow you to go in. I nodded and sat back in the seat. I popped a few chips in my mouth and felt Charlotte push forward, looking outside through my eyes. Luckily our eye color was almost the same, hers were just a bit brighter than mine. Still, we had to be careful because they could send out a weird glow. Where are we? She asked curiously. The mountain cabin. Why didn't you get with him? He told me to stay here. He needed to check some things out. He may be making sure that it was safe enough for me to enter. Or just pretending in the least. I sighed and popped another chip in my mouth. I wonder how long it will be until mate gets here. Hopefully in a few hours. I stalled us as long as I could when we stopped. I am sure he was about to have a stroke with how long I took. I sure made him pay for all the snacks. I opened up a granola bar and Charlotte laughed as I began munching on it. I seemed to be more hungry now. Oh, here he comes. Charlotte retreated back in my mind and I gave him a welcoming smile as he opened the door. Leave your things for now and come use the restroom, we need to go get a few things. He told me and I nodded. I got out and followed him to the house quietly. I looked around and saw the many faces of different wolves and lichens that I hadn't seen before, a lot more. We went into the home and I used the restroom and freshened up a bit. When I walked out, I ran right into Dexter. I let out a yelp and jumped back. Sorry. You just startled me. I laughed softly. He laughed and took my hand. When I pulled to free it, his grip tightened. I am sorry. Let's go, shall we? Okay. He kept my hand uncomfortably tight in his and walked me to the SUV. His hand seemed to tighten the closer we got, as if he was afraid that I would run. I was confused as to why. We were only going to the store. We got into the vehicle and I was now sitting up front. We stopped at a small gas station and he got out and started pumping gas. Do you mind if I go inside for a water? I left mine behind. I figured if we are stocking up, we are going to be a while, and I need to wash down those snacks. He looked inside and back at me and gave a small nod. Great, a little space to think, I thought, but as I got out of the car and walking inside I realized he was already inside, causing me to roll my eyes. I picked out my water. He paid for it and we walked back to the vehicle. I took a drink out of it and sat it down. I realized I left something in the back. He just sat in the driver's side next to me, so instead of bothering him, I decided to turn and reach myself. I sat back and pulled my hair up into a messy bun. When I finally took a drink of some more of my water, it tasted like it had something mixed in with it. As I looked over at Dexter, I started feeling extremely tired rather quickly. He smiled at me and I knew he had done something. I yawned and rested my head back against the seat. No matter how much I fought the sleep, soon I was out cold, fast asleep as he drove us. Everest POV. I didn't realize exactly how far out this place actually was. It seemed as if we were never going to get there. Everything seemed to look the same. I swear we passed that tree already. Stop worrying, we will beat them there. By at the least a half of a day or more. Besides, we are almost there. Well, to the human town at least. We are going to park on the other side of the human town in the opposite direction, shift, and go where we need to be. Brent told everyone in the vehicle. I relayed the information to our lichens and wolves who were traveling with us. Miranda seemed worried. What about Cassie and myself? We can't shift and we definitely wouldn't be able to keep up with you both. She had an excellent point and not I or Brent responded immediately. I was trying to figure out a way that would work for them. We can have you carried. Or you can ride on a wolf. I turned and was looking at her now. Her face seemed as if she didn't like the idea. After a minute or so she finally spoke. I don't mind riding a wolf, but I don't want Cassie around them. I don't trust them to not hurt her. I nodded and honestly I couldn't blame her, so I offered to take Cassie myself. I will carry her, my lichen will make sure that she is well protected and no harm would come to her. Cassie seemed to like the idea as she squealed and clapped her hands. I get to go with a lichen. Yay! 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 Goddess bless this child, she has no clue the danger she could be in. When we all parked and got out, I followed Brent. I inhaled the air and could smell the fresh pine and flowers that were growing. The town we drive through seemed like a small working town for the humans. We passed several lumber trucks coming in and a massive lumber yard. I unlocked my phone and looked at it. I barely had any service. This was surprising because I figured I would have had none at all. Amber, Jameson, Claire, and Josh were walking over to us. I could feel their nervous energy rolling off of them all. Miranda walked over and asked a very important question that I didn't even think of, Cassie's safety. So when we get there and the time comes that we may have to fight him, what about Cassie? She can't protect herself if this starts going sideways. I don't think Dexter will give up too easily. She was right, he wouldn't. Claire raised her hand to get everyone's attention who were talking out loud. I can take her and we can run back to the human town. If things go wrong or something happens to you, I swear that I will protect her for the rest of my own life, until death. She walked over and placed her hand on Miranda's shoulder and smiled. Miranda had a tears threatening to spill at that thought. Thank you, Claire, Josh too. You don't have to do that, but I appreciate it. Let us pray to the goddess above that will never be something that we have to worry about. She smiled as Claire came over to her and embraced her in a tight hug. Brent broke up the sweet moment. We need to get moving. Stay close to me and do not let your guard down. Miranda, can you place an enchantment spell to keep our scents down? Of course, King Brent. She responded and began chanting a spell. As soon it was like a blanket was coating us, blocking our scent. This stays active for the next 2 or 3 hours. After that it will quickly begin fading away. We must move quickly. Once we get there I will make a stronger spell around the grounds and forest to protect our people from being ambushed. Ready? She looked between Brent and myself. I nodded and began to shift, others following suit. I walked over to Cassie and looked down at her. She raised her hands up and rushed over and buried her face into my Lycan's fur. Soft. My Lycan looked at the small child and nudged her with his nose as he lifted her into the safety of our arms. She squealed with excitement and whipped her head to Miranda. Look, look! I am so tall! Cassie laughed. I let out a rumble as Cassie was settled into my arms. I watched as Miranda climbed onto the back of Josh. We let out growls to let all sides know it was time to move and we took off to our destination. It took us almost 2 hours to reach. We ran hard and non-stop. When we reached the forest home I looked in my arms at Cassie. She was somehow fast asleep and I smiled. I can't wait to have our own children someday. When we walked inside, it definitely didn't match the outside. Everything was top of the line, updated, modern, and sleek. This looked like it had been recently remodeled as the smell of fresh paint still lingered in the air. I sat Cassie down on a nearby couch and Claire sat in front of her, sticking to her word. Miranda walked over, placed a small kiss on the child's forehead and walked off, chanting her spells. It was different as her words were more pronounced and more emotion seemed to be behind her. I walked to the porch and sat down in one of the chairs, thinking. The thoughts of my father's death creeping up on me and my mate being taken away soon consumed me. I was lost in my own turmoil of emotions suddenly. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.